Hi, welcome to lesson 1.2 or A.2 where we're going to talk about adding integers. So we're going to focus in this lesson strictly on adding and just with integers. We're not going to put in fractions and decimals yet because they have their own extra little set of rules which we already know, but as we're starting to work with adding positive and negative numbers, let's focus on that, then we'll add in the extra fraction and decimal rules as we go along. So by the time we're done, we want to be able to explain how we can model or show integer addition on a number line. We're going to find sums of integers by reasoning about absolute values, and then explain why the sum of a number and its opposite is 0. Now, we're also by the end going to maybe have a couple of general rules to help ourselves when we're adding integers, just to make it go hopefully a little bit more smoothly and a little bit more quickly. But right now, let's talk about, and we're going to use number lines to help us. All right? So some things to keep in mind and some things that I'm going to do with my markers to hopefully help us. Remember this all the way through. Adding a positive number moves us right when we're looking on the number line. And oftentimes it's in blue. Our book uses blue, so that's why I'm going to try and use blue. Adding a negative number moves us left on the number line, and the book often shows it in red. So here we go. I'm going to try and use red. We'll see how this goes. Now we're going to be asked to find the sum, and as we do that, we need to remember that we always want to start at 0. Then we're going to move for the first number in the problem. Then, wherever we ended, we're going to move for the second number, doing whatever it is according to its sign. And then that will get us to our answer. Okay? So let's try this out. Find the sum of 4 plus negative 4. I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to move, it's positive 4. So I'm going to move, using my blue marker, right 4 spots. So here we go. We're starting here. We're going right 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. So this was plus 4. Now I have to add negative 4. Well, I was at 4. Negative 4 means I go left. So with my red marker, now I'm just going to put a little arrow on the end of this one to here. There we go. So we know we went right. Now I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go left for 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, right there, back to the end. And this was plus negative 4. So where did I end up? I ended up back at 0, which means our answer, 4 plus negative 4, equals 0. Got right back where we started. And what do we notice about 4 and negative 4? That's right, they're opposites. Tuck that away, because we're going to talk about that in a little bit. All right, let's look at another example. Here we have negative 3 plus negative 12. Okay, I see 2 negative numbers, which means I'm only using my red marker because we're only moving left on the number line. So I'm going to start at 0, take my first number. Negative 3, 3 to the left. Here we go. Start there, go 3 left. That's negative 3. Okay. But now I've got 12 more negatives to go so I'm going to go 3 and I'm going to go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 right here to negative 12. Where did I end up? That's right, I ended up at negative 15. So notice this. So far I've added opposites that gotten 0. I added 2 negative numbers and I got a negative answer. Let's see what happens with a few other examples to help us make our rules. Okay, so we've got a few more examples here. Example C, you're probably like, oh, I know this one, 6 plus 2, it's 8. You're absolutely right, but let's think about it in terms of positive moves on a number line, just to help us form those rules. All right, so we start at 0, we move 6 to the right because it's positive, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6. And then it's another positive number, so I'm going to move 2 more to the right from 6. 1, 2. And lo and behold, where are we at? 8. So I added 2 opposites before. I got 0. I added 2 negatives. I got a negative number. I added 2 positives. I got a positive. Okay. Maybe we can make some rules for ourselves here. But what happens if the numbers have different signs and they're not opposites? Well, let's see. Let's take a look. now we have -3 plus 1. So -3 says we're going to move left on the number line when we start at 0, and we're going to use our red. So here it is. I'm going to go 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3. That's -3. Now I've got to go right 1 because my number is positive. So where did I end up? Look at that. I ended up at -2. So I had a negative number, and I added a smaller positive number to it, or a number with a smaller absolute value, and I stayed negative. So I had something, but not quite enough to get it past 0. Okay, what about over here? 5 plus -2. I've got a big positive number, and I've got a negative number. Now you're saying, couldn't that just be 5 minus 2? Yes, it could. But we're going to add a positive and a negative number, where the positive number is the bigger number, bigger absolute value, and the negative number has the smaller absolute value. Let's see what happens. So 5 means I go right 5 from 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at that. How speedy are we? Plus -2. 2 means I go 2 left using my red. 1, 2. Where did I end up? Look at that. I ended up at 3. So this time, when the absolute value of the positive number was bigger than the absolute value of the negative number, I stayed positive. Let's tuck all that info away, because that's going to help us reason out some things about absolute values and help us make our rules. All right, let's take a look at some kind of rules and think about how absolute value works with this, and then we're going to do some examples that apply this idea. All right, so first thing, the sum of a number and its opposite is 0. We saw that. -4 plus 4, move 4 to the right, move 4 to the left, boom, we got back to 0. Well, that opposite is also called the additive inverse. If you ever hear that term, that's what it means. It means the opposite of a number, because it cancels it out back to 0. Because, additive, because we're adding here in this case, and inverse is another word for opposite. Okay? So the sum of a number and its additive inverse, or the sum of a number and its opposite, is 0. All right, now, adding numbers with the same signs. So adding 2 positives or adding 2 negatives. Okay, so this would be, take 3. Ha, I got the right color now. Positive plus a positive equals a positive. POS is positive, by the way, in case you didn't know. And negative plus a negative equals a negative. So when we're adding numbers with the same signs, we add the absolute value of the numbers and then just put that same sign on the answer. So like -3 plus -12. Well, what's 3 plus 12? Those are its absolute values, right? Say that's 15, but they're both negative, so we make the answer -15. Or 6 plus 2. What's the absolute value of 6 and 2? Oh yeah, 6 and 2. 6 plus 2 is 8. They were positive. It stays positive. Okay? So add numbers with the same signs. Add up the numbers, their absolute values, put that same sign on the answer. Now, when we're adding numbers with different signs, I can't give you this nice little rule like I did up here. Sorry. It just depends on the size of the numbers. So, I know, we've been adding this whole time. Now I'm going to tell you to subtract. You bet I am. So, you're going to subtract the larger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value. Or another way you could think about it is subtract the smaller absolute value from the larger absolute value. I like to write it this way just so you see larger absolute value minus smaller absolute value, because we want to do bigger minus smaller. And then you put the sign of the larger absolute value on the answer. So that's when we did -3 plus 1. What's the absolute value of those numbers? 3 and 1. Well, it's 3 minus 1? 2. But -3 is the larger absolute value, so it makes it -2. Or when we did 5 plus -2, absolute values of those numbers, 5 and 2. So 5 minus 2 is 3. 5 had the larger absolute value. It was positive, so the answer stayed positive. All right, let's take a look at some examples. We're going to find the sum 6 different times here. So we always want to ask ourselves the question, same sign or different signs? All right, so let's look at A. -5 plus -2. Same sign, different sign? same sign, which means we add their absolute values, stick the sign of the original sign on there. All right, so 5 plus 2 equals 7, but then they're both negative, so our answer is negative 7. See how that works? 9 plus 33, same sign or different sign? That's right, same sign. So we add them up. Absolute values are there, so what's 9 plus 33? It's 42 and it stays positive. I'll be honest, you're not going to see a ton of problems like this because you've been doing this kind of adding for a long time now. All right, negative 11 plus 6, same sign or different sign? That's right, different sign. So now we subtract the absolute values. Big absolute value minus smaller absolute value. What is 11 minus 6? That's right, that's 5. But what kind of sign does the answer get? Negative, because 11 is a larger absolute value and it was originally negative. So a bunch of things to think about, but you can do it. 12 plus negative 5, same or different signs? Different. So we once again subtract the absolute values. Bigger absolute value minus smaller absolute value. 12 minus 5 is 7, that's right. Now, positive or negative? Well, 12 is the bigger absolute value and it was positive to begin with, so our answer stays positive. All right, 9 plus negative 9, same or different signs? Different, but what do you notice? That's right, they're opposites. And we know that opposites, or we have a number and it's additive inverse, just throw that word in there. What do they always equal? 0, that's right. Or maybe we have this one, negative 182 plus 182. Same or different signs? Different, but once again, you notice they're opposites. So when we add opposites, our answer is always 0. All right, so you might be saying, where am I going to add and subtract integers? Well, maybe you would do it with a bank statement. We have transactions here for bank account. $35 deposit, $40 deposit, negative $25 withdrawal. So withdrawal means it's negative, the money's going out. So it says, what's the change in the account balance? Well, let's see. What are we going to have to do with these numbers? You got to total them all up, right? So we're going to do 35 plus 40 plus negative 25. All right, well, let's start adding, right? Order of operations, just work left to right. 35 plus 40, that's positive plus a positive. What's that equal? 75. Yeah, it just stays positive. Because we add the absolute values and it keeps the sign of those two numbers. Okay. Now we got 75 plus negative 25. Different signs. So we subtract their absolute values, which equals 50. But then is the answer positive or negative? It stays positive because 75 had the bigger absolute value. So it means we're ending with 50. It's $50 change. Now, if it's positive 50, is that an increase or a decrease? That's right, it's an increase because it was positive. So it's a $50 increase. If our answer had been negative, then it would have been a $50 or whatever dollar decrease. So now hopefully you have a little better understanding of how to add integers. You can use a number line, and then you also have the rules that help you know how you can add them, and whether they have the same signs or different signs. You also know a little more about additive inverses, or the opposite, adding two opposites. Thanks.